We're back with our final artist for Artist Talk on the Couch. We have the amazing Aleena with us this evening, and we're going to dive in a little bit about your journey and background, and we'll ask some questions. So, I'd like to start off. Can you share a little about your journey into art and what first inspired you?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having us. It's such a special event, and I feel so grateful to be here and that you're holding this space for us generously, graciously. My journey with art started before I can even remember. I have drawings from before, I could talk. My mom has always been extremely supportive of my art, and I was always given art supplies to play around with, and she's always been my number one fan, although neither of my parents are artists. So I started out really drawing and painting with pencil, and then probably around like elementary school or maybe kindergarten, I started making friendship bracelets, as I think many of us do. But I really took off with it and made them well into being a teenager and sort of let go of fiber for a while. I had like a brief stint of making clothing at a point, and I still actually make clothes sometimes. There's a dress that I made that's in one of these pictures out of macrame too. But it wasn't really until 2020 that I started making plant hangers and getting into these larger kind of fiber art wall hanging types of works. But I also still paint and do alcohol ink. And I suppose before any of that, even I'm also a dancer and an aerialist. And I've been doing that since I was a small child. I'm also a jeweler. And like I said, I still make clothes. I occasionally play music, and I'm also renovating a school bus. So I really consider my life to be my greatest work of art and try to just live creatively and create as much as I can with as much intention as I can.
So you're creative to the core. Were there any key moments or influences that shaped your style, particularly with your work that you're exhibiting now?
Absolutely. So I think like many of us during the pandemic, I had so much time. And what I did with that time was make so many macrame plant hangers and start getting into after that wall hangings. It was a friend of mine who was like, "Oh, I think I want to make a plant hanger." And I was like, I just had never even considered that that could be a thing because, I was so into the friendship bracelets, but I was like, that's for children. But now I'm an adult and I like plants. So now we make plant hangings and that's how we have fun. But then that wasn't enough. So I got into wall hangings. And then there was a point where a good friend of mine, who's also an artist, was starting to do some plant dyes. And I was like, oh, plant dyes, that sounds interesting. So then I started adding some color to my works. And I've always been very enthusiastic about jewelry. So when I moved to Philly, I'm from Arizona originally, from Tucson, Arizona. I met a jeweler who lives around the corner from me, and I started apprenticing with her. So that was a really important turning point for me as well. After that, I started incorporating metal into my work, and I do patina and hammered metal, and also incorporate stones sometimes. So those were sort of the major turning points in my fiber art work so far.
What what usually sparks a new piece for you? Is it the concept, a feeling, or the materials?
As I was reflecting on this question, I realized for me that it's most often actually the geometry that inspires me. I'm very abstract. My background in undergrad, I was actually a physics major, so I'm very kind of analytical and heady. And so a lot of times there will be geometry in the center of my work, like often triangles. I also love hexagons and circles, a big fan of shapes. And so usually I'll have in my head like the shape that I'm working with and where it is. So it can be like a literal shape, or it can be for many of these pieces like the shape of the work itself. Like there's a piece of the corner here that has like many different kind of tiers, so it's like the shape of the entire work. And I think that's normally kind of what grounds me is geometry at the beginning. Yeah.
For the piece that you have exhibiting here, or I should say pieces, how does it feel especially personal right now? If so, why?
Yeah, I think the piece that feels the most personal for me right now is this big one over here with the two medallions. It's called Gemini. This is, I think, the biggest piece that I've made yet. It's very large. I'm also very excited about the color scheme there. So that was like a new experiment with color blending for me. And it's also the first work that I've named after an astrological symbol, which I am also an astrologer and a big fan of the stars in the sky. My undergrad was actually in cosmology, so I've been studying the stars in different ways for a very long time. So that was like the first piece that I made and named after some astrological concept, which makes it extra near and dear to me. And I myself am a Gemini, and so that piece feels quite personal to me now.
So, we're listening to some of your favorite songs today in the background. Why did you choose these songs or these tracks?
It's funny right now we're listening to Erica Badu, I'll call you back. But I will not call you back. I'll talk to you now. So I chose these songs because they're songs that I can always return to with enthusiasm. Some songs I'll be really into for a moment, but then they kind of fade away. So these were songs that yeah, just I feel like I can keep coming back to.
How does music influence or inspire your creative processes?
Yeah, this was an interesting one for me. I'm a strange one. I've never actually been super like enthusiastic about music in much of my life, and I do listen to music as I make art, but more often I'll be listening to like a lecture, maybe on like something psychological or astrological. I really enjoy kind of learning while I make art. I find the process of making my art quite meditative. I'm also a yoga teacher as well. And I think that's something that really draws me to the practice is the way that the redundancy kind of like relaxes my mind. And I feel like having that relaxed state of mind really opens me up to the receptivity that's required for learning. And so I really kind of like to listen to something intellectually stimulating while I make art, which is kind of funny, unraveling mentally to kind of reintegrate something analytical in the end.
Final question. What do you hope people feel or take away when they experience your work?
For my work, for sure, the impact that I hope to have if one of my pieces is in your space and you encounter it is a sense of peace. And I realized that a major theme and story that gets kind of woven into my art is this dance, this balance between strength and softness. I realized that sort of the theme between all of the different creative outlets that I have, what holds them all together is that I love things that tinkle, whether it is being an aerialist or jewelry or fiber art. I just love that soft, relaxed hang. And I thought about that, when I came to this realization recently, and the expression like hang loose versus being uptight, and how like I think much of my life's work and my art is this journey of unwinding and learning to be soft and relaxed. And so I'm really, really drawn to that in the music as well. Actually, I really enjoy music that has like a relaxing beat to it, or just makes you feel at ease. And I really hope that my pieces of art, my works, if you encounter them, feel like a meditation, that it gives you this sense of just like an exhale of that you can relax.
They're absolutely beautiful. Well, let's give a round of applause for Aleena Glinski and your amazing work. Just walk around the room and check out all the artists' work. Thank you again, and thank you all the artists that sat on the couch tonight. And stay tuned next week. No, 2 weeks, we have our next artist talk. So if you're not following us, follow us at a community underscore art gallery and stay tuned for more to come. Thank you.